Amelia, stop. Amelia, mommy has to do something real fast, okay? Like, mommy has to do this, okay? Can you please go sit? You have to go sit. Okay, go sit.
Good evening, everyone. We are so excited to be here with you tonight. We are releasing the survey results from our recent survey of all of our EFMP families. Jennifer is joining us because she is our lead researcher. Jennifer, do you want to tell anybody about the survey before we get into the findings?
Just that it was a labor of love. It took a long time. You're gonna see the dates, and you might be like 2021 and 2022. I feel like a reminder of telling everyone that we are all volunteers, EFMP families ourselves, and so it took a little while to get out to get the data put together and to do the write-up, mainly because EFMP, I have 3 kids that are on EFMP for medical and educational stuff, and of course, it's like when you get right into the thick of writing or something, you have hospital stays and all of that fun stuff. So I apologize if it seems like it's been a while since you've heard about any of our surveys or anything that we have released like this. I'll take full responsibility for that. But it's just been hectic. So I don't know. But it's good. I will say this, that we did only have like 300 respondents for our survey. So when we release another one, we are looking for more participants. So, but that doesn't mean that it's not the findings that we have are not important. It doesn't mean that the information of the families that gave us, that answered our survey, that what you told us and shared with us is not important. It is all incredibly important. It is all worthwhile. Why is my phone ringing? I apologize. Yeah, sorry.
So I can pop in here. Yeah. I feel like Jennifer has her hands full in the moment. So one thing to remember is that food insecurity has been a really hot topic, but the initial food insecurity survey only had 300 participants. So the exact same number that our survey had this year, which means we know that that small number can make a difference, especially when we're talking to policymakers. So everything you're sharing with us is valuable. It's how we decide what policies and priorities we're going to work on fixing in the coming years. So thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. And we will get started. Let me share screen with you guys. So one of the things people ask a lot are how many EFMP beneficiaries are there? And we know that at last report, there were 146,000 plus family members enrolled in EFMP. We know that number is not the actual number of military families that have a loved one with a disability, but that's the last number on the number of dependents. And I guess one more caveat to that would be, that doesn't mean families, because we know oftentimes families will have more than one dependent enrolled. We've included in the survey, and we're not going to bore you with all of this, but there is a policy on EFMP eligibility and enrollment. So it is in our survey, and we will be sharing that with you guys in the coming days. The history of EFMP. So EFMP was established in 1979 by the Army. You think that we would have things a lot more put together than they are now, but it's a labor of love for us here at EFM to help them figure out how to fix the program to assist us. So we're going to continue on our journey. And then Jennifer, are you in a place you can chat again?
Yes, I apologize, everyone. my husband is on speech therapy duty with our oldest son right now, so I'm home with our other two kids, and one of them is eating dinner next to me, so she's very chatty. Um, yeah, so for one of the questions that we asked was 89% of respondents waited longer than TRICARE's standard of care. TRICARE's standard of care is 28 days. Austin, sorry, my daughter's talking to me right now, so if you want to take that over, I apologize. Sorry.
So in our assignment process survey, the very first survey that EFM did, we learned from you guys that it was very difficult for you to access care in TRICARE standard of care, which is 28 days. It was especially difficult for some subspecialties. And so we asked that question again. Now that we have the Air Force and the Army coming out with their new electronic systems, the Navy has changed how they're putting people at bases. Was it getting better? And what we found is that it's still largely the same, if not worse in some areas, with 89% of the respondents telling us that they had to wait longer than that 28 days. So it's definitely something we're going to continue to engage our leaders with, especially as the new TRICARE contracts come out. The next topic we addressed was branch respite. And we know there's some confusion among some of our families on respite care. So every branch has their own respite care program, and then TRICARE has an ECHO respite care program. Specifically for branch respite care, 42% of respondents had said they were unable to utilize their branch's respite care program. And that, for various reasons, was an issue. Some families said if they're in the Army, it's because I don't have respite care for siblings. Some families said there are no respite providers where I'm at. So it's, again, something that we need to continue to look at. But the good news is there is a new respite care program coming that's supposed to make our lives easier. So we look forward to that. TRICARE ECHO respite. Are you back, Jennifer?
Yeah, I was going to say, so we have TRICARE ECHO respite, which we actually hear a lot of our autism families inquiring about, and other families too. We also hear about adult EFMP families. In the survey, there were a few that were like, hey, I would like to have, assistance and stuff. Why can't we utilize this as well? And so one of the things that I made sure to do with our survey is to not only show what you all were saying, is a problem, or how it's difficult for you all to access this, but I also pulled in just a little bit of research, outside research, some articles saying why it's important for families to access respite, why it's important to have that, that support system. I mean, we all know military families, we're all away from our families. Support system isn't always right there. It's hard. I don't know, maybe some of you guys are like me. It is very hard sometimes to ask even local friends to step in, say, hey, can you help me? Can you watch my kid while I go to a doctor's appointment, or while I take one of my other kids to a doctor's appointment? It's hard. So I pulled a few articles and summarized the importance of why respite care is, why we need respite care. So, which you'll see in the survey, the main survey.
Right. And while you were chatting, Jennifer, I was pulling up, there was a recent GAO report, and GAO stands for Government Accountability Office. And that GAO report also addressed TRICARE ECHO respite. And what they said is that in 2021, about half of the ECHO enrollees who were authorized to receive respite care were actually able to utilize that benefit. And here's the kicker. Only 341 people were authorized to use ECHO respite. So we think there are a lot of you who probably qualify and are not starting the process. Those that are starting the process, obviously only about half are actually getting the care they need. And I know that we've heard from some of the nursing care companies that do the respite care that it's really hard to give one family 16 hours in a month, because there are nurses who need full-time jobs, and 16 hours across the 30-day month is just not feasible for a lot of nurses to take on a case. So it is definitely something that we're keeping an eye on, but we want you to know the Government Accountability Office is also looking at it, and they are aware. And that report also addressed the fact that even our leadership says that this is a difficult program, and there's a lot of confusion on who gets to access it, when, how, all of the other pieces around it. One of the things that we should clear up for you is we know there are two types of echo respite care. There's echo respite care, which is the 16-hour benefit, and there's echo respite EHHC care, which is the 40-hour a week nursing respite care. So when we talk about this respite, we're specifically talking about the echo respite that is for a child who does not need nursing level care. Adult incapacitated children. The topic is really close to my heart. I have adult children, and although neither one of them has been filed to be an incapacitated adult child, I do have a child I know someday will need to be, and we know that the process has been really hard for families. And the data we really got from families was that nobody was able to file, and the ones who did try to file couldn't figure out how or where, and no one had answers. So one family shared with us that they've heard from other families, and after speaking to representatives for the program, that it's a very difficult process, and that even if the child is permanently disabled, they have to redo the paperwork constantly. This person says it seems like it's just one more program that the military makes extremely difficult to receive, and we already have a lot on our plate. And I think that the entire team at EFM couldn't agree more with you. It is a priority that we are working on this year. We're hoping to make this process easier for families that do have an adult child that needs to file for incapacitation status. And for the families who did not file, we asked why. And this family says one issue was the forms all being different depending on the branch of service. Standardization of this process would be helpful. And this is a great time to say standardization is a hot topic term across the DoD right now. Everything is about standardization, but it takes a long time to get all of the branches on the same page. So if you are needing to file for adult incapacitated status, if you reach out to us via Messenger, we can give you the one DoD directive that exists on it that we know of to hopefully get you going in the right place. Jennifer, do you want to talk about electronic websites and applications?
Hold on, Amelia. Yeah, so this one was actually really interesting to sort of sift through when I was looking at quotes. By the way, if you hear my daughter, if it sounds like she's like crashing, she doesn't really completely know how to stop on her scooter, and so she just kind of like runs until it stops. So I apologize if she's okay. I promise. We've been teaching her how to stop. But anyways, this one talked about, the branch websites, Air Force, we're Army. So we have the new electronic website, which we're kind of just sort of getting into a little bit because we updated our kids' EFMP right before they launched the electronic website. So we did the old paper, and now we're going to try to figure out the electronic. But anyways, I think Air Force has my vector. I can't remember what the Navy, they have some stuff. And so anyways, but it was interesting to sort of see how people, it was kind of like, 71 respondents have used their branch website or application. This is prior to the release of the Army Enterprise EFMP, but a lot of people were saying like they would obviously like an easier process when it came to a website or an application. Obviously, I mean, who doesn't really, who wouldn't love to be able to use, an app or something on your phone and have it be a little simpler. Some people did talk about like my vector being backed up and having to wait, like being backlogged. And so it was a little, so there were some things about like, some things about that. People talked about that. So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that we want to discuss.
I would say I would say that.
I'm sorry, I'm like trying to listen to all.
No, you're fine. only comment that if you are an Army family, because we do have an Army contact at the Pentagon who is struggling with the new enterprise EFMP system, or you get a message that you don't understand what it means, please send it our way, because they have graciously allowed us to come in and have conversations with them on things that we need changed or explained better. And we can probably get you a quick answer from them and get it updated for the next family. We've also heard rumblings that eventually the Air Force is going to adopt the Army Enterprise EFMP system, which seems a little odd since they just created their own, but it's the government and they do weird things sometimes. The next topic we have is on housing, and we need to give a special thank you to Armed Forces Housing Advocates, because they did provide us with some data that helped guide us on the path that we were on. We do want to say before we get to the results that we talk about things being ADA homes here because that's what our survey questions asked. But we, as an organization, through the guidance of Armed Forces Housing Advocates, are going to transition to calling it accessible housing, because there is actually no ADA definition for an ADA home, which is a fun fact that we got to learn. And the first data point we had was that 85.7% of respondents that answered this section indicated that they applied for ADA housing at their current duty station. So that was a lot of you. And I think that what comes next is going to make this number seem outrageous, because the numbers are all over the place and the answers people get can be so very different. Jennifer, do you want to take this one? Oh, Jennifer looks like she's still busy, so I'm going to keep going. 50.8% of our respondents indicated that they have a family member in their household who they believe should qualify for ADA housing. And obviously, every installation makes that decision differently. You can be at one installation and qualify and at another one not. So it is hard really for us to quantify what that means. But if a family believes they have someone who qualifies, my gut says they're probably right. 20.3% of our respondents indicated that they believed their household may qualify for ADA housing, which is slightly different. So one believes I have a member who should, and one is I believe they do. We aren't really sure how the answers kind of meshed out, but again, it's an interesting finding. And I took us all the way back to the beginning of accident. Here we go. 69% of respondents say they have applied and were told that there was an ADA wait list, which our friends at Armed Forces Housing Advocates have put out a lot of information on ADA wait lists. And I would say that we should address that with them. Maybe we can have them on another Facebook Live. I don't want to speak wrong on this, but I believe that the ADA wait lists, there's an issue with them, or the way they're doing it based off of rank. We are back at page 2. I'm not really sure why we keep going back that far. 23.7% of our respondents stated that there were not enough ADA homes available at their installation. And this we do hear from you guys frequently. I think the team at EFM suspects that it's because a lot of our really more complicated families end up at the same installation. So we know there are big hubs, right? JBLM, a lot of people end up at Joint Base Lewis McChord. And when you have a lot of people who have higher needs than maybe the rest of the population ending up at a housing office saying, I need ADA home, you're going to be playing the Hunger Games, right? To see who's actually going to get that ADA home in an adequate amount of time. So it is something that I think needs to be addressed, but it's tricky because they are changing the way they're sending families to installation now, and we're not supposed to all be bunched together at these big installations. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Are you back, Jennifer?
Yeah, if you can go back to the housing real fast before we go into food insecurity. I did want to put in, because again, when you look at the survey, you're gonna look at in the beginning of the housing section. This sounds really dorky, but I gave like the history a little bit of housing and how, the housing companies that oversee the different installations and stuff like that, and like what their responsibilities are. So then that way people can see, like, you know, they can look at these companies, like these organizations that are responsible for keeping your home safe, you know, ensuring that we have homes that on base that are livable and stuff, like what their responsibilities are and where it's lacking essentially. And so you'll see that in the survey when you read, and you'll see that in the survey in the beginning, but it was just really you're not really supposed to, when you do research and stuff, you're really not supposed to be like, over your data and stuff. But it was really kind of hard to read, like some of the housing situations that people were in, you know, and so some of the hazards and stuff that people were, you know, kind of forced to live in, and so, or homes to accept and stuff, and or things that they were told and they weren't, you know, that wasn't true. And so it's really interesting to, it's not, well, it's not interesting, but I mean, it's upsetting to see that, like, on paper. So we're hoping that, like, with this data, because it really helped back up like what AFHA found. You know, you have two organizations that are essentially finding the same things. You know, have similar findings. So, I mean, it's pretty big there. So, in my opinion, I know it's not a very
Yes,
humble
and
opinion, but
I just went back in since you were mentioning that and pulled another data point out that we don't have a slide for tonight, but 5.1% of respondents reported that they didn't have ADA homes due to their rank. And one thing that AFHA has graciously shared with us is that homes that are ADA compatible or accessible are not supposed to be divided by rank band. So we know what's happening at installations, and we know that our network partners are working really hard to make that not be a thing. But if you're being told the home's not available because of your rank, please go to Armed Forces Housing Advocates and ask them for assistance, because they can help you with this.
yeah, I mean, I recommend AFHA, excuse me, I have something in my eye real fast, a lot when I see housing um, situations come up, just because, and I mean, I don't know about you, about everybody else, and this has really nothing to do with our survey, but I'm a little concerned about these, like, with the BA, you know, like the BAH increase and everything. Like, we tend to live off base just because off base meets our needs better. But now I'm like, yeah, that's great. We have a BAH increase, but that just means property managers are going to jack up our rent. And so we're not going to still, you know, and so it's like, awesome. Thanks. Like, where do we, you know, but yeah, I mean, I recommend AFHA a lot when it comes to housing, because we have to have that partnership there, because our issues are overlapping.
Right.
Clearly,
And they do have some, yes, and they have experts on their team who handle this every day. I did drop the link for all of you in the chat. So visit Armed Forces Housing Advocates if you are struggling
seriously, if
with.
you have housing issues, they're amazing. They're amazing volunteers. They're amazing organization to get connected with. So anyway, sorry, my soapbox there. I don't even live on
I think
base.
we could all go on and on.
I know. I don't even live on base. So I'm like, like 4 people, like, so ridiculous.
It can be hard. I feel like there are horror stories out there. Everybody has them, but I feel like it can be hit or miss. We had an amazing experience at one installation, and I moved to another that, by the way, still has rolling power outages. And you're just like, that's not even an accessibility issue. That's just, you can't manage to maintain power to your homes. And they point at each other. The government points at housing, and housing points at the government. So it's definitely a big mess, and that's why we have AFHA fighting the good fight for our families. So thank you again, AFHA.
Yeah, and I
Food
think about, like,
insecurity.
our son. Like, my son had a CPAP machine for a while, and he had to have it. And, you know, we thought he was going to move to a BiPAP machine for a little bit, and it's like, we can't have that. We can't risk that. No, like, we can't risk rolling power outages.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Well, that's why
sorry.
we moved out of housing. That's
Yeah,
why we
well,
moved out of the
yeah,
house and did
exactly.
it for.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, sorry, we can
Yes.
move on to.
So food insecurity has been a hot topic in the military community lately. And one thing that we have really tried to get people to understand is that when they are doing these surveys, they are not thinking about it from the EFMP perspective. So the team inside EFM thought, okay, what things do we think may be leading to food insecurity? We had our suspicions. I know that someone in our team said, well, what if you have celiac disease and you need to buy special food? What if you are at the hospital all the time? So we tried to ask these open-ended questions that gave you the ability to tell us about whether your family has faced food insecurity and if it was in some way related to your disability or your loved one's disability. And across the bottom, you'll see that 50% of the respondents to this question say they sought resources from local food banks. And 17% of the respondents stated that their family faced food insecurity in the past year. I don't even know where to start. I feel
So
for our
again, I mean,
family.
we do only have 300 people, and we kind of have talked about like, oh, what do we say when people ask, oh, you only had 300 people respond to your survey, but like this, the people who responded are the ones who need this program fixed, all, you know what I mean, like all together. And I think with food insecurity, this really shows like, EFMP families are struggling in ways that maybe others didn't even think to go there. So I'm really glad that we asked this question in this survey, because it shows, not only are we having problems like accessing medical wait lists and therapy wait lists when we move, not only are we having issues with housing, um, we have other issues, that you guys may not be thinking about. And one of those is food insecurity, because we are having to drive to hospital or doctor's appointments multiple times a week. Or our kids like have special diets. I'm not on EFMP, but I have celiac disease, so I have to eat gluten-free. And so whenever we move, actually one of the things that my husband and I always look for is like what grocery stores are around us, because we have to know where we're going to go, grocery shopping, if so it's things like that. But yeah, there was a small percentage, 2%, who reached out for assistance and received none, even though you know what I mean, like even though the people who responded, it's a small part of our survey, like that's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
So
I couldn't agree more. It's definitely something we're going to have to look into as an organization where we can send you so that you can find food. And I do want to say, we talk about food insecurity, and I think a lot of us think, oh, well, we struggled this paycheck, but I managed to make dinner every night. And that's not all that food insecurity is. I know, I want to say 10 years ago or so, we had a lot of appointments for my little girl. And sometimes they would call us and say, we need you to come in right now. There was no prepping food to take with you. It was get in your car, drive to the hospital. You don't know when you're coming home. And the number of times I thought, we don't have enough money in our account for me to stop and get something to eat on the way home. That is food insecurity, because you can't feed yourself and something has come up. And I could eat if I got home, but if I'm, 100 miles from home and I'm going to be there for 8 hours and it was unexpected, that's not something you can plan for.
well, it's hard, like, I mean, especially if you don't have a support system. I mean, like I hate to like throw out like what my family went through in August. Like my daughter was unexpectedly hospitalized. Like we were transferred from our local ER to the children's hospital downtown, and we were admitted super late at night. We had like enough time for my husband to throw a bag in the back of my car for me to grab to go to the hospital. But like I had a bottled water because I thought we were going home. I thought we were going to get breathing treatments. Her oxygen levels were going to go up and we were going to go home. And so, yeah, I mean, I having you all just offer to say, like, can we send a DoorDash? Can we send food? Can we send this? Because she's 3. I really can't like leave her alone. When you have young children like that, you don't want to leave them alone in a hospital room to even go grab food or something. And then if you're having to wonder, like, oh, am I going to be able to afford the cafeteria food? Because cafeteria food at the hospitals are expensive. Let's be honest. And it's hard. It's hard. And then I think too, or do you want to go to the next graphic? Because I might be getting ahead. Because I was thinking about like medical equipment and stuff.
I think you're thinking ahead. So 78.7% of respondents stated that EFMP related costs contributed to their food insecurity. So what does an EFMP related cost mean? And one of the things we heard was that 45.7% stated that their extra medical expense purchases contributed to it. So we're not just talking about food, we're talking about buying stuff that TRICARE didn't cover, trying to pay all your copays for your medication. And this is really important for anybody who thinks that their spouse may be going to recruiting duty. You are not going to be by an MTF, which means those free copays on your medications disappear, and you need to be prepared to pay those copays out of pocket, and a lot of people aren't prepared for that. We heard about people paying for ABA therapy out of pocket, different, their echo copays have contributed. So there are a lot of mechanisms that have caused food insecurity.
There's like diapers, people who have had to buy diapers for their kids who are older and not potty trained and stuff. Where I live currently, we haven't accessed it. My son moved up in diapers. We get ours covered through Echo. And so I have an overabundance of like the smaller size diapers that he used to wear. And we have extra wipes. So I'm trying to like think of how can I get this in my community for other families that either may not be on Echo yet and are still having to buy diapers, or, and need that need this or what. So I'm trying to like think in my head, like, how can I use this to help people where I'm at locally? And we're also about to move in May, and I would not mind offloading some of this weight.
Well, and that's the other thing we see, especially in some of our local groups. So please feel free to do it in the national groups. If you have extra supplies that you know you're going to trash, offer them to other families. It cannot hurt. This slide, I know we touched on a lot of this. Food when your loved one's in the hospital. My little girl spent 3 months inpatient, and that's a very long time to be paying for food at the hospital. So we know that that is an added expense. Another thing that some people have mentioned are travel costs. And if you're not on TRICARE Prime, you don't get the Prime travel benefit. So you are paying that out of pocket. If you are going to a hospital and there is a parking garage you have to pay for, that contributes, especially if you're going there 3 days a week for therapy. Gas, all of those things can be really hard. Jennifer, do you have anything else before we move on?
Hold on. So the travel, as you said too, but like big thing too was, and it's not on the graphic, but it was kind of mentioned, it was sprinkled in there, but childcare, like obviously, like, we're kind of moving in a direction too. I want to say, like, we're really trying to put some heat on how like CDCs and like other daycares and childcare aren't equipped to handle children that have significant like medical needs or disabilities and stuff. Like I have a middle son who's level 2, 3 autistic, minimally speaking, uses an AAC device, is not potty trained, that kind of thing. Like in daycares when he was younger, he had to go to Easter seals, and so for daycare when he got a little bigger. So, but a lot of people did say that having to pay for like specialty babysitters and stuff, or pay the extra money for babysitters because they needed this help, maybe because they couldn't access respite. And so that was a little those are also coming out of pocket as well. So,
Right. So there are a lot of reasons. We're going to continue to look
yeah.
into this and engage with leaders. We know that
There's so much more in the report. We're just sort of, believe it or
glossing
not,
over the top.
yeah,
Yes.
believe it or not, we're just sort of like,
It's a good read. So trust us. Take the time to read it. The information in there is really going to be invaluable to you, especially if you're engaging with your leaders or your community and trying to help families just like yours. Um, the next topic is guard and reserve. So, for those of you who don't know, guard and reserves do not enroll in EFMP unless their service member has been activated for more than 30 days. And it is a very long, complicated process. So, get there. We had 15 respondents that were National Guard or Reserve, and 80% of those 15 said that they knew there was an exceptional family member program. But that's where it gets a little tricky because 60% of the respondents said that they were enrolled, but 33% said they were not. And we question how some of them got enrolled. So if you've gotten enrolled, please let us know because we have families reaching out all the time. We have families actively advocating to get some of these processes changed. And we're back to slide 2. I don't know why we keep going back to 2 tonight.
I was on mute. Maybe there's something amazing about slide 2 that we just haven't figured out yet.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
What's
We have a
that?
Guard and Reserve Facebook Live on February 1st. Oh, I see what they did there. They did the military date. I was like, 1 February? What? And I was like, oh, that's how it's done in military.
Yes.
Yes. Join us for our Facebook Live, for our other lives too.
Yes. And so specifically on the Guard and Reserve, we did want to mention that we this year had asked legislators to consider a GAO report so that we could quantify the number of people who potentially would be able to be enrolled in EFMP as a Guard and Reserve family, regardless of their activation status. And what we learned was that though the provision was not adopted, the joint explanatory statement directs the Secretary of Defense to brief the House and Senate Armed Service Committees on the eligibility of reserve component members for such programs and to describe how eligible members may access these services provided by the program. So maybe it was a half a win. They're at least looking at it. People are going, I wonder what's happening. And we are hopeful for what has the potential to come. We are almost at the end, you guys. Just hold on tight. So we have multiple recommendations based on the survey. Jennifer poured her heart and soul into this. So they are really great recommendations. The first one is to streamline the EFMP system for enrollment, maintaining paper once enrolled, and for PCS. And we know they're trying to do that through their electronic systems, but we also know there are a lot of glitches and it's different from branch to branch. Removing barriers to access for respite care and allow families to utilize providers to help families with school and work. So this comes specifically from the nursing care perspective. We know that if you're getting EHHC nursing care, whether it's respite or the full nursing benefit, that the spouse is not allowed to go to work or school. It's actually written into the TRICARE operations manual. And it is something that we have engaged leadership with as well as members of Congress because we think that they don't realize that this is the case and that they are losing single soldiers or single service members, dual military families, because that service member can no longer go to work. So it's something we're going to continue to engage them on. And we have even suggested they allow nurses to go to the CDCs with our children because we know our children can't access the child development centers on base. And the CDCs seem like they may be open to that. So yes, it is a recruitment issue, it is a retention issue, and it is a very easy fix. It also circles us back to food insecurity because these families cannot go to work because their child needs nursing care or they're getting this 40-hour-a-week respite benefit. And I want to be clear, this 40-hour-a-week respite benefit requires skilled nursing needs. So we're not saying that a mom or a dad is leaving the house with the respite care provider. I'm not really sure why they've changed, like half of it's considered respite, half of it's considered nursing care, because really the only threshold is that it's 40 hours a week or less is respite, and 41 or more is the full benefit. So it doesn't make sense that they have it cut out like they do, or they've named it that way. But we know that these families are then forced to rely on a single income. They have no choice because the spouse cannot work. And when you have the additional expenses that we talked about under food insecurity, it just all plays together. Do you want to hit the next two, Jennifer?
Yeah, sorry. You guys might hear my dog bark in here because my son came in here and then he let my dog in here. So she might start barking at my door. So the next one is obviously it's about housing. So provide more ADA, now we know, accessible, compliant homes for EFMP families, or require that all new homes be built in a manner that allows any family to utilize it, regardless of disability. Hold the housing companies accountable when they violate the tenants' bills of rights. If you don't know your tenant bills of rights, we can help you find them. I'm sure AFHA will gladly help you. They've actually, if you don't follow them on social media, they've been doing some really good reels. I'm too old for TikTok, but they've been on TikTok and stuff, and educating people about their tenant bills of rights. And so then also too, Austin, do you want me to continue?
Go
Do
ahead.
you want me to continue? Okay, so it's just about, so improve.
Let's stop. Sorry. We've got a lot going on in my background too. So as far as the housing, when we talk about building new homes in a manner that allows you to utilize it regardless of disability, this is really simple, right? If you built every house with wider doorways and a no step entry, a lot more families would be able to utilize them. Not all families need a one-story home. Some can use a two-story home if there's a bedroom on the bottom floor. So there are a lot of ways they could have done this. And for some reason, the military hasn't done it. We could really lead the way. This could be a way that the military is able to say, look at how great we are. Look what we're doing for families. So we can be champions of really what it means to live in an accessible world, right? If you build a ramp, everybody can use it. If you build stairs, only the people who can walk up the stairs can use it. The next bullet point was improving the current Air Force MyVector website process for EFMP families and launch the other websites for the remaining branches. Hiring the appropriate staff up to manpower the influx of paperwork coming through electronically so the EFMP processes will not get backlogged. So this obviously came about when MyVector came out and everybody went through the same program and it was chaos, and I am sure it still is. The Army has released their website. We're hearing rumblings, so maybe it's a little gentler. We'll see, I'm sure, soon. Identify and provide resources targeted for EFMP families who experience food insecurity, or provide FSSA to EFMP families of certain ranks. So we know, obviously, since we finalized the report, that we now have the supplemental food allowance. And we do have concerns on how that is calculated, especially for our EFMP families. So we are trying to address that with DoD leadership. And we asked that they survey the current EFMP enrollees DoD-wide on the issues. We know there's an EFMP survey out. I'm certain that every member of EFM has probably taken it. And we noticed that there were a lot of missing topics. So I don't know about you guys, but when I took it, what stood out to me was that there was no section if you were an adult on EFMP, which is ridiculous, right? How many of us are enrolled in EFMP as adults? I know I am. They didn't have any questions really about me. It really all pertained to my children. I didn't get any questions on food insecurity. Did you all? Anybody in the audience, did you get questions on food insecurity? Because I know I didn't know.
I didn't. No.
I don't recall questions about housing.
It's been a while since I've taken, excuse me, because it goes to the service member. So it's been a while since it's been taken in our household. So
Sergio said same thing. Nothing on adult, nothing on food. Yes, we took it with my family took it.
Yeah.
Because it had to go under the service member. That survey is still open, and I know we are all surveyed out, and I can't believe I'm about to tell you this, but please go take the survey, because this is your opportunity to tell them how bad it is. And we use the opportunity to fill those comment boxes with our experiences. And you know what? There are good things. I'm not going to say that everything in EFMP has been horrible, because that is absolutely not the case. But when something is broken, it tends to be broken catastrophically. And they need to hear from families so they know what to prioritize fixing. So again, please, please, please take the DoD EFMP survey. It's open, we think, for a couple weeks more. If your service member doesn't have their invite in their email box, or they can't find it, you can go on the website. You can take it without the link that was sent. Please, because this is your opportunity for them to hear from you. And this is the first time the DoD has ever done an EFMP survey. 1979 to now, there has never been an EFMP survey. So all of our rumbling and everybody calling legislators and their leaders and all of these town halls have got you somewhere, and what it got you was a survey. So I know you hate surveys, we all do. Please, please go take it.
Yeah, this is going to be the way that they can't deny, hopefully that they can't deny, the issues that are out there that families are experiencing. I know I've done a couple of like interviews with like reporters and stuff like that, and like the thing that I always stress, at least I know for us, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm getting out of the military, like we're done, I can't do this anymore. I know for us though, it's like EFMP families are, and let us help us stay in, like we want to stay in, and we want to, live this lifestyle, and it's worthwhile for everyone. And so it's kind of sad when you feel like you're constantly being pushed out from all angles. And sometimes I just wonder, I'm like, do you not realize like what you're doing? Like you're making families, you have over 146,000 people enrolled in EFMP, and you have 146,000 people that feel that possibly, I'm not going to say all of them, feel like in some way, shape, or form, feel like that they're being like, they don't belong, like being a military family. And there's a lot of service members that have done a lot, they've put a lot into their careers, and there's a lot of dual military families too. So, that want to stay dual military as well. So I don't know. It's just, it's kind of sad to me that, yeah. I don't know, Rebecca, do you have anything that you want to add?
I'll just add that there's a defense primer on EFMP, and I put the link in the comments, and that's where we get the numbers of how many people are in EFMP. But you're right. And speaking to retention and recruitment, we are a loyal group of people that want to serve, want to continue to serve. We just want to have the necessary help for our family members and be a part of the community, because we are a part of the community. And that's what we're looking for here, is to make improvements to this program to make it easier for, our families' lives. And I really suggest that everybody checks out the quotes and the appendices of the report, and because it's family voices, it's why we're here, it's those voices we want to uplift. Feel free to use this report. These people willingly gave this data to us, and if you're out there watching and you're a government entity or a legislative entity, you can look at these quotes and really see how these people are feeling, how we're feeling.
Yeah, and I'll just say, and I know some people might look at the survey and be like, oh, only 300 people answered your survey. Like that's like a drop in the bucket, or something, like a whatever. But at the same time, like it's 300 people, 300 families that are like to me, it's like, please help, like, fix this. And it's, I can't remember what it was that I said, but it's like, these are the families that are possibly need the most assistance. And why are we ignoring that just because it's only 300? Why are you going to disregard that just because it's only 300? It's important 300 participants.
I think, Congressman Kelly put it best at the EFMP hearing, which is these are your very most vulnerable people. And we hazard a guess that we probably surveyed some of the most vulnerable members of our population, and what we learned was heartbreaking. So you're right, Jennifer. We have a lot of work to do, but these are real lived experiences that nobody can say aren't true. And 300 is too many. So with that sad note, it's going to make me cry just thinking about it. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, I know. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your support and everything that EFM does. We dropped a link to our website where you can download a copy of the report yourself. It is now live. And again, thank you so much. Have a good night, and we will do another live soon.